हेलो दोस्तों, बिगनर्स पॉइंट में आपका स्वागत है। और अभी हम कर रहे हैं पैसेज नंबर 7। इससे पहले के पिछली वीडियो में करें तो देख लेना जाके। Most of the declarations of the Fourth World Conference on Women in Beijing in 1995 have faded from memory, but the linkage made there between women's rights and poverty and the perception that discrimination actually impedes progress has survived. Since then, the promotion of equal rights has become a central economic priority for international aid agencies. The World Bank has declared the enfranchisement of women the single most important issue for effective development. A sweeping statement, perhaps, but since 1805, the bank has lent billions of dollars on programs that encourage girls' education, better maternal health, and on microcredit initiatives that funnel money directly into the hands of women. This is a substantial sum dedicated to women. If not most developing countries, women produce more food than men and bear primary responsibility for feeding, sheltering, and educating the young. But lack of education coupled with social customs which treat women as second-class citizens restrict their participation in the economy. The figures are starting globally. Those women who do work are concentrated at the bottom end of the labor market and receive far less pay. A significant proportion of the world's illiterate are women, and women account for half of all refugees. Anything that helps women catch up with men should be welcome on grounds of equity alone. But fair treatment of women is also one of the most effective ways to improve an economy's efficiency as well. It is widely recognized educating more women in developing countries and specifically making education available to men and women equally is likely to raise the productive potential of an economy significantly. As education levels rise, so do household incomes. In sub-Saharan Africa, for instance, 70% of young children whose mothers have secondary information receive their vac- vaccination as opposed to just 30% of those whose mothers have no formal schooling at all. A cross-country analysis concluded that gains in women's education made the signal single largest contribution to declines in malnutrition in 13 countries between 1970 and 1995. Some researchers reckon that if female farmers in places like Cameroon or Kenya were afforded the same schooling and other opportunities as male farmers, crop yields would rise quite hefty. One economic analysis estimates that if countries in South Asia, Africa, and the Middle East had closed the gender gap in schooling at the same rate as East Asia after 1960, income per head could have grown substantially over the actual growth rates achieved. But one country's gender base is another's ancient tradition, entrenchment, interest in laws and institutions. Some South American countries like Bolivia and Guatemala restrict wives' employment outside the home. In South African nations like Botswana, women have no independent right to manage of own land, but now girls are offered stipends for secondary education, a long-standing program now all steered by multilateral aid. Elsewhere in Africa, in Ghana, Peripatetic Bankers act as lenders and financial advisors, often helping women has particular to set up small businesses. Part of the rationale for microfinance small icons that caters to women is that some studies have shown women tend to spend money more prudently on vital goods and services that benefit families. Men often squander it. This finding may seem implausible to many men. Not many women would be surprised. अब ये हमने पढ़ चुके हैं, पढ़ लिया है। अब देख ले रहे हैं पैसेज वगैरह। विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग इज एन अप्रोप्रिएट टाइटल फॉर द पैसेज। इसके लिए कौन सा होगा? किसके बात बात करी है इसमें? एक तो इक्वेलिटी की बात करी गई है और ऊपर जेंडर की बात करी गई है। ठीक है, तो अनेबलिंग एशिया द लॉन्ग रोड अहेड, नहीं। कैचिंग लिप विद अफ्रीका, नहीं। रेजिंग चिल्ड्रन की बात तो करी नहीं है। पोवर्टी अ मैटर ऑफ जियोग्राफी की बात नहीं करी। जेंडर फेयरनेस इक्वल्स economic development. Gender fairness equal economic development can be a suitable for title of the passage. Which of the following is or are hindrance in the economic development of the countries mentioned in the passage? Time honored tradition in these countries, women's limited access to education, population explosion in the 1960s. इसका आंसर क्या हो जाएगा? फेयर ग्लोबल, इसका आंसर हो जाएगा time honored tradition is in these countries, women limited access to education. A and B इसका सही आंसर हो जाएगा. What do the statistics in the passage indicate? इसमें क्या चीज इंडिकेट करता है? The female infanticide rate in African countries has dropped significantly. Maternal health and life expectancy of women has improved since 1995. Education of mothers. Much of the World Bank Economic Development Africa. इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट ऑफ 70% यंग चिल्ड्रन, ये वाला सही हो सकता है. कहाँ पे है? एजुकेशन. एजुकेशन की बात कर रहा है. एजुकेशन ऑफ मदर्स हैज़ इम्प्रूव्ड हेल्थ एंड इम्यूनिटेशन इन सब सहारन अफ्रीका. यहाँ पर ये लिखा भी है इन सब सहारन अफ्रीका. फॉर इंस्टेंस एग्जाम्पल के लिए 70% ऑफ यंग चिल्ड्रन हुज मदर्स हैव सेकेंडरी इन्फॉर्मेशन रिसीव दैट वैक्सीनेशन हैज अपोज टू जस्ट 30% ऑफ दोज हु मदर्स हैव नो फॉर्मल स्कूलिंग एट ऑल. क्या हो जाएगा इसका सही आंसर? सी इसका सही आंसर हो जाएगा. Which of the following best describes the author's opinion regarding international aid efforts? These have been ineffective on account of rampant corruption in aided countries. Aid will soon dry up as donors. Aid should be withdrawn from countries which do not promote equal opportunity. ये भी गलत है. The goals are unrealistic as many of aid countries are facing political conflicts. ये भी गलत है. ये इसका सही आंसर हो जाएगा. These are generous but effectiveness is hampered by prevailing local factors. Choose the word group of words which is most nearly the same meaning. Same meaning किसका है? Faded. Given is bold. Tainted गलत हो जाएगा. Disappeared इसका सही आंसर हो जाएगा. B is synonym of the faded. Choose the word group of words which is most nearly same meaning. Funnel किसका हो जाएगा? Available. Which of the following is true in the context of the passage? Women in Asia, Africa have access to primary but not higher education. International conferences on gender equality have not resulted in any concrete aid and action. ये भी गलत हो जाएगा. सी आंसर इसका क्या हो जाएगा? सही हो जाएगा. There has been much focus on the issue of gender equality in the past two decades. Choose the word which is most opposite in the meaning to be fairer given in bold has used in the passage. क्या हो जाएगा इसका? Wised. Wised is a correct antonym of fair. Choose the word which is most opposite in the meaning of the word implausible given in bold. क्या हो जाएगा इसका? Credible. Credible इसका सही आंसर हो जाएगा. According to the passage, what can be said with regard to Africa in struggling to improve the situation with regard to discrimination against women? ए आंसर इसका सही हो जाएगा. बाकी पढ़ने की जरूरत भी नहीं है. अब देख लेते हैं पैसेज नंबर 8. From a technical economic perspective, many assessments have highlighted the presence of cost-effective opportunities to reduce energy use in buildings. However, several bodies note the significance of multiple barriers that prevent the take-up of energy efficiency measures in buildings. These include lack of awareness and concern limited access to reliable information from trusted sources, fears about risk, disruption, and other transactions, cost, concern about upfront cost, and inadequate access to suitably priced finance, a lack of confidence in suppliers and technologies, the presence of split incentives between landlords and tenants. The widespread presence of these barriers led experts to predict that without a concerted push from policy, two-thirds of the economically viable potential to improve energy efficiency will remain unexploited by 2035. These barriers are albatross around the neck that represent a classic market failure and a basis for governmental intervention. While these measurements focus on the technical, financial, or economic barriers preventing the take-up of energy efficiency options in buildings, others emphasize the significance of the often deeply embedded social practices that shape energy use in buildings. These analyses focus not on the preference and rationalities that might shape individual behaviors, but on the intangible cultural practices, norms, values, and routines that underpin domestic energy use. Focusing on the practice related aspects of consumption generates very different conceptual, farmings, and policy perceptions than those that emerge from more traditional or mainstream perspectives. But the underlying case for government intervention to help to promote retrofit and the diffusion of more energy efficient particles is still apparent, even though the form of intervention advocated are often very different to those that emerge from a more technical or economic perspective. Based on the recognition of the multiple barriers to change and the social, economic, and environmental benefits that could be realized if they were overcome, government support for retrofit, renovating existing infrastructure to make it more energy efficient, has been widespread. Retrofit programs have been supported and adopted in diverse forms in many settings, and their ability to recruit householders and then to impact their energy use has been discussed quite extensively. Frequently, these discussions have criticized the extent to which retrofit schemes rely on incentives and the provision of new technologies to change behavior, whilst ignoring the many other factors that might limit either participation in the scheme or their impact on the behaviors and practices that shape domestic energy use. These factors are obviously central to the success of retrofit schemes, but valuations of different schemes have found that despite these, they still have significant impacts. New experts suggest that the best estimate of the gap between the technical potential and the actual in situ performance of energy efficiency measures is 50%, with 35% coming from performance gap, 15% coming from comfort taking or direct rebound effects. They further suggest that the direct rebound effect of energy efficiency measures related to household heating is likely to be less than 30%, while rebound effects for various domestic energy efficiency measures vary from 5 to 15% and arise mostly from indirect rebound effects, that is where savings from energy efficiency lead to increased demand for other goods and services. Other analyses also note that the gap between technical potential and actual performance is likely to vary by measures, with a range extending from 0% for measures such as solar water heating to 50% for measures such as improved heating controls, and others note that levels of comfort taking are likely to vary according to the levels of consumption and fuel poverty in the sample of homes where insulation is installed, with a range extending from 30% when the considering homes across all income groups to around 60% when considering only lower income homes. The scale of these gaps is significant because it materially affected the impacts of retrofit schemes and expectations and perception of these impacts go on to influence level of political, financial and public support for these schemes. The literature on retrofit highlights the presence of multiple barriers to change and the need for government support if these are to be overcome, although much have been written on the extent to which different forms of support enable the wide take-up of domestic energy efficiency measures. Behaviors and practices, various areas of contestation remain, and there is still an absence of robust exposed evidence on the extent to which these schemes actually do lead, lead to the social, economic, and environmental benefits that are widely claimed. Which of the following is most nearly the opposite in meaning to the word consecrated has used in the passage? क्या आंसर हो जाएगा इसका? ये आंसर हो जाएगा वीक, क्योंकि कॉन्क्रीट मतलब स्ट्रॉन्ग, एक तरीके से कॉन्क्रीट यानी कि रोड़ी पत्थर वाला जो होता है मजबूत बना देता है ना एकदम कॉन्क्रीटेड, कंक्रीटेड यानी कि स्ट्रॉन्ग बना देता है। इसका एंटोनिम क्या हो जाएगा? वीक। विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग इज द मोस्ट नियरली द अपोजिट इन मीनिंग टू द वर्ड रोबस्ट हैज यूज्ड इन द पैसेज? अपोजिट मीनिंग देखना है, रोबस्ट यानी कि एकदम से उछाल आ गया, रोबस्ट मीन्स एक्टिव और स्ट्रॉन्ग, इट एंटोनिम इज लूज। बी आंसर इसका सही हो जाएगा। विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग इज मोस्ट नियरली द सेम इन मीनिंग टू द वर्ड अनएक्सप्लॉइटेड हैज यूज्ड इन द पैसेज? इसका क्या हो जाएगा? अनटैप्ड। Title for the given passage: How to measure the impact retrofit programs energy conservation. Barriers of effective uses energy. B आंसर क्या हो जाएगा? सही हो जाएगा। According to the author, to make programs for conserving energy more successful, only latest technology must be employed? नहीं, पुरानी टेक्नोलॉजी को भी मिल रहा है। The author's country must adhere to norms followed in countries where such programs have been successful? नहीं, सी आंसर इसका खाली सही हो जाएगा। Change must be brought in the attitudes of people with respect to efficient uses of energy. सी आंसर सही हो जाएगा। Which of the following is the most nearly the same in meaning to the word underpin as used in the passage? Practice, norm, values and routines that underpin domestic energy use. These analysts focus on preference and rationalities that might shape. इसको क्या कर रहे हैं? एक तरीके से शेप दे रहे हैं, तो फिर क्या हो जाएगा इसका? डिटरमाइन कर रहे हैं, बता रहे हैं, डिटरमाइन इसका सही आंसर हो जाएगा। Which of the following is true context of the passage? Employing retrofit programs is relatively a new concept and is yet to become popular. The government so far has been least supportive of retrofit programs. Lack of the trust on landlords has been cited as one of the major barriers to employing energy efficiency schemes. Retrofit schemes are dependent on the incentives to bring about attitudinal change towards energy efficiency schemes. The answer इसका क्या हो जाएगा? सही हो जाएगा। What is the author trying to convey through the phrase albatross around the neck as used in the passage? क्या कहना चाह रहा है? Prevent from achieving success. B आंसर इसका क्या हो जाएगा? सही हो जाएगा। The author in the given passage of the view that no amount of efforts can bring about changes in employing energy efficiency schemes in his country, positive that more evidence on retrofit scheme is essential to make people more aware, sensitive towards them. Clinical about the present state of energy efficiency measures taken in his country. सी आंसर सही हो जाएगा। सी आंसर इसका सही हो जाएगा। As mentioned in this passage and according to the experts, in order to exploit existing potential to better energy efficiency measures, availability of sufficient funding is a must. Availability of reliable information from dependable source must be ensured. Adequate and trustworthy suppliers of energy must be made available. गवर्नमेंटल सपोर्ट बाय इम्प्लीमेंटिंग एडिक्वेट पॉलिसीज इज एसेंशियल, सारे सही हैं। ठीक है। ये आ गया आरआरबी का, इसे छोड़ देते हैं, यहीं तक रखेंगे, अगला चैप्टर करेंगे अगली वीडियो में।